What is up, guys? Welcome to the podcast, to the video, the stream, the live stream. We're just here in the pregame doing our little Kahoot. So if you want to join with the code above, 1429981. That's 1429981.
And it'll be first in, best dressed.
First in, best dressed. There's 10 spots. 20 people watching already. Two of them are us. Jake McGibbon is watching. We have Kahoota and we have Hynes. We have Hynes in the chat. It's a bit of fun at the start of the week.
Yeah, warm
just after TLT, there's a lot of stress with everyone's TLT side. So I think we have Tom. I wonder if it's Tom Trebojevic. I guess I'll ask you something I'm not going to ask you on the podcast, Jake, just to while time goes by. How do you think the Sharks are going to go this year? They're looking good, eh?
If you asked me that last week before a certain halfback came back, would have been like, not as good. But, mate, Sharks look so much better. I know it was the Dragons, but, man, we look so much better with him there.
I said to Whisperer on the Sunday podcast, he asked me if I think they're contenders. And looking at the top sides, I think they're the most polished. And I think on their day, they're clearly the best. Like, they've got the roster, they've got the team that's been there for a few years, they've got the coach. All these other sides like Penrith, Broncos, you can find holes in their sides, whereas Sharks, they've got the depth as well.
I'm hoping.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess like Trindle looked amazing, but just doesn't do what Hynes does. Sean Fitzpatrick, early question: who's a better buy this week, Schuster or Ford? I think it's Ford by a country straight.
Yeah, I think Ford's the safest scoring option. I think Schuster, without any attacking stats, he's getting about 20 points. So.
Yeah. Would you downgrade Murray to Ford so I can get Hynes? We will.
I'm sure we'll go through that.
We'll answer that. I guess the play limit is reached, so we've locked in our 10. Let's begin before we begin the show, lads.
Fire it up.
TLT round 5. Josh Camplin is in the chat. Best ranked SE Experience member, Mikey Savs Hads Tim. Ooh. Well, one of us didn't have Hynes in this. But that person is still... It's Mikey.
There's a lot of people backing you, mate.
Yeah, I know.
And I didn't put this next question in first because otherwise I probably would have gave away this one.
Yeah.
So when we do get to...
Oh, interesting. Both of these...
I couldn't not, Savs. I couldn't.
This is honestly the perfect opportunity to do it too. Like, it's not on the podcast though, so
that's all right, mate. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to bring it up. Some people said yes. Oh no.
Yeah, I don't have Hynes, but I'm still ranked quite high compared to...
He's still, what, 3,000-ish, I think he was?
Yeah, 3,000. So I'm pretty happy with how I've got through this week without Hynes. We will talk about it. Whose price increased most in round 4? Walsh, Hopgood, Khan, Piera, Jacob Carraz. Oh...
You're right before the time finishes, Savs. I reckon you can throw your answer because you actually don't.
Yeah, because it's delayed. I actually don't know. I'm going to go Campiera. Sorry,
Khan Pereira with his 117.
Did I get that just in time, like for you to accept?
Yeah.
Fair. Oh, WT is up front, 14-12. Whose price went down most this round? Latrell, Brimson, Cleary, Sean O'Sullivan. I think Latrell. 32 points. Oh, by Jake's face, I don't think I'm right, but 32 points.
Oh, no, I'm just telling you to just wait for your answer.
Yeah, I should have waited.
You were correct. It was Latrell Mitchell.
I have Brimson, and he dropped quite significantly as well. 2, 3. Yeah, there's only 6 people answering, so I think it's dropped out for some people.
Is anyone commenting saying that?
Yeah.
No, I reckon they've already given up, I reckon.
Questions weren't coming up. Who has the lowest break even this week? I'll wait till the end, but I think I know who it is.
No, so the question comes up on what you're looking at, and then you answer, I'm pretty sure, in your boxes on your phone.
Yeah.
So lowest break even: Jackson Barlow, Tom Chester, Zach Hossing, or Jonah Pizzette. And obviously that was last week's highest.
I think it's Pezzett. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm on fire.
Mate, you are on fire.
I just know
Tom up near the top. Halfway through. Who did not score a ton in round 4?
Oh, I know this easy.
Do you? Marju, Hynes, Fafita, or Lachlan Miller? Actually, I'm pretty sure you own... Actually, no, you only own one of them. 2 of them.
I own two of these guys. 2 of these guys I don't own. And I know they definitely got a ton. And so I didn't answer it in time.
That's all right, mate. We knew your answer.
Yeah. I own Lockie Miller and Fafita, so obviously I know Fafita.
Tom's on fire here.
Yeah. Tom, answer streak. 7 out of 10. Who is the highest averaging 5'8"? So
see, I did a 6 there for you, Saz.
Munster's got a 78 and a 60 in round 1. Pezzett is halfback only, I'm pretty sure. Dylan Brown is averaging the lower.
I did throw a trick in there.
I think it's Munster.
It was Munster. So many people went Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Munster. It was Brown last week, but it was the old switch.
Oh, he's only played 2 games, so the sample size is it's easy to average heaps.
Of course, Tom gets it right.
Tom,
run away win this one.
He's starring out in front. True or false? Payne Haas is now the most owned front rower.
Give yourself a couple seconds before you answer, Saz.
15. Well,
this is the most owned
I'm going to say
front rower.
false.
True or false? Who is?
Franklin Pele?
No, Stefano. Witkomano. But not by much. I think maybe next week that might change.
Yeah. He's still quite highly traded in this week. Question 9.
Go.
Which winger has the higher average? Jacob Carraz or Ruben Garrick? Okay, so Ruben scored a 70 on the weekend. Got an 80 and 110, so his average is probably 180, 250, probably like 80.
Yeah, once everyone answers it, it finishes.
Yeah, I know.
Were you going to say Keyraz?
I probably if I had time, I probably would have figured it out. But
mate, you only got 20 seconds.
That's not the point of the show. Pre-tell to you who's the most traded out player. Tohu, Adam Dewey.
This one,
yeah. Well, I think the photo gives it away, doesn't it? Because like this guy, you're gonna be able to trade him out and trade him back in because he's a recycling bin.
Why is Kimamari a recycling bin?
Because you can trade him out and still trade him back in because.
Oh, yeah. Because it's gonna be.
All right, who's won this?
Well, I think it's safe to say who won it.
Third is Fuck Hynes.
Yeah, must have been one of your followers, Saz. WT absolute flying victory. Big Tom.
Big Tom. Congratulations, Tom, with the burger head.
We don't really do prizes, but we might do like a grand final thing at the end with everyone.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll maybe get all the
Tom. I don't know if you're on Facebook or whatever. Message a page with a screenshot of you winning,
and then we'll have like a finale thing at the end.
Finale. Yeah.
That's a good one where we'll have like 27 people. I like that. All right.
Or we could only have a couple. If Tom keeps winning every week, he's going to...
No, but he'll have tickets to... I don't know. But, lads, let's get into the show. Tom!
Get ready for a Tommy Turbo Masterclass. Tameless Tuesday is here. And the boys are hard as a rock. Don't be a weak-gutted dog. Leave that for Jamin Salmon. Get ready for the best SuperCoach show on the planet. It's so good, it's better than Lego. You're now listening to the SuperCoach Experience Podcast. Here's your host, Brandon Savage.
The weak-gutted dogs are here in the building. The coach of the Jamin Salmons, Brandon Savage, is here at your service. I'm here to chat TLT. Big TLT has dropped. There's been a few big inclusions, big exclusions from TLT, and here to dissect it with me is... It says it in the name himself. Kiss my behinds. If you did not own him, you are kissing everyone who owns him behind. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. It was not only, I guess, for my SuperCoach team. I brought in Hynes. Didn't throw the C on him. I got done by a few people who did, who ended up scoring 1,400 plus. But just for the Sharks, we were talking just before the quiz as well that the Sharks look so good. Like they're definitely, I guess, premiership contenders with Nico Hynes fit and running. And like that was 1 week back after, a calf injury. So can only kind of build on from that. But yeah, I'm doing great. A lot better than you, Savs.
They're a much better side with him in the side. And don't get me wrong, Trindle is a great player. But I think just Hynes takes that side to another level. And I think they're genuine premiership contenders this year. How am I? 1,159 without Hynes. I was winning 10 out of 10 leagues before that last matchup. And I think a lot of people who did buy Hynes were kind of banking on this game for this to happen. Let's get into it straight away. Everyone's tearing their sides apart to get in Nico Hynes. So he's the most traded in player this week by a mile. Off the top of the show, should we really leave this in suspense? Like, is this the question everyone wants to answer? Should we leave the viewers in suspense? No, we should. No, we should.
That's unmade. Sorry, I think we've got to. Yeah.
Off the top of the show, everyone's getting their part. Fuck that up twice. Everyone's tearing their sides apart to get in Hynes. You did it last week, but I wouldn't say like it wasn't a calculated risk, but you wanted Hynes. He's in your side. I think I sit on one side of the fence where I think that not getting Hynes is probably the right thing to do if you don't already own him. But I had a thought the other day, can I get in Hynes? I could. And now I'm scared not to have him. Am I trading him in? I don't know. But what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, last week was definitely the week to do it. They play the Warriors this week, who've been quite good defensively. So it's not like they're going to be an easy beat like the Dragons. They're coming fourth, the Warriors. So they're going well. This week's a bit tricky because they have to buy next week.
Yeah.
If you think he's going to absolutely kill it again, then 100% you're going to bring him in. Otherwise, if you're a bit certain, like, they're not going to play as well. They're not beating up on the Dragons. You're not versing a sack of potatoes this week. Then weigh up what it's going to cost you to bring him in, what players you're getting rid of, but also look at over the next 2 weeks. So whoever you're trading out for Hynes this week and next week versus Hynes, or whatever player you would play instead of Hynes as a reserve. So it's very kind of bit team dependent what you're giving up, and then your scores across 2 weeks versus one. Because I think after the bye, I think he's going to be a bring in regardless. So it's either kind of now or you get him after the bye, and in between, what do you think's going to score more?
So I've told a few people, don't rush to get him in this week. Like if you didn't get him last week, your intentions were not to get him in this week. So what's changed? Like we know he can score 180 on any day. We know that. He's a great player. He's a great SuperCoach player. But what makes the difference now? Are they just too scared not to have him now? Because is it 100% obvious he's in great form? Yeah, he's in great form. I'm very scared not to own him this weekend against the Warriors, but we can't forget last year, 185 against the Warriors at PointsBet. So I'm pretty sure that's his highest ever Supercoach score. It's going to be hard to miss out on him. But as you said before, the Warriors are a different side. Sunday, 4 p.m., it's quite a good captaincy time slot. It has been raining in Sydney. It will pretty much rain all week, but we know the wet head does not deter Nico Hynes from scoring.
It gives him superpowers.
So,
although the wet weather's not too good on calves, so makes the ground a bit heavy.
That's fair enough. PointsBet is quite heavy as well. They have a bye next week, and then they go into the Roosters. A lot of the time when I've said to people, don't rush to get in Hynes if he wasn't your plan originally, they've kind of said, I don't want to miss out on his price rises, because obviously when someone scores 180, their price could potentially go up. Let's say he scores 100 this week. His price will go up. His price will go up.
But not for another 2 weeks after that.
But it'll only go...
Nothing happens. Then the week after.
And the 180 will drop out of his average, and he's got to average 90 to keep it up. So if he scores a 40 this week, he'll still go up in cash. But then he plays the Roosters after the bye, and he averages 45 against the Roosters. I know he hasn't played the Roosters probably as much as we would have liked for a sample size, but the Roosters is a tough matchup. The week after, they do play someone a bit easier, so I think he will be a must-have by then. But I'm pretty happy not to own him for the next 3 weeks. If he gets through this week unscathed, I was pretty happy not to own him on the weekend, but that went wrong. But my side still scored okay. You don't need to bank on one player to get your side's score really good. He's not going to score 180 every week.
Yeah, no, it's a once in a potential season score. Like last year, had that 185. His next best was maybe like a 140, 150. So I don't think he's going to go, mega score again this week. But it's kind of the thing on, like, the fear of missing out on a potential big score from a player that can go big, and he looked good last week. But like we sort of said, has a bye next week, and it's very team dependent on what you're giving up to sort of bring him. Like, if you're giving up, like Nathan Cleary was in, I don't know if he still is, but he was in the top 10 of most traded out players. If you're going Cleary to Hynes, please don't be doing that. That's not really the play. Cleary's got this week and next week. He versus Canberra this week, who looked terrible. It's not something I would be doing. That's for sure.
So a funny stat yesterday, Cleary was in the top 10 traded in and the top 10 traded out at the same time. He's actually out of both at the moment. So that, I think that's it's more of an indication of where he's at. I think Cleary, he's a great option. But moving into the hot topics of the week, Cameron Murray is the most sold player this week. 4,300 people have sold him out. I've spoken about this a bit with you guys, and I think I kind of agree with this one. His role has changed. He looks like Gerbo under Des Hasler in last year, and he looks like he's just ball playing. On the weekend, I think he had 12 runs for 124 meters, 15 post-contact meters, so it shows he's not bending the line. He's kind of just worried about getting the ball out to his wider men. What are your thoughts on Cameron Murray as a sell? I agree with it, but I don't think it's a slam dunk sell.
No, 100% it's not a slam dunk. He's still kind of, I know what you mean. He's kind of playing the line out the back, but he was doing that last year as well. And he still scored quite well. The fact that South, they did beat your Manly controversially on the weekend.
Yeah, it wasn't a forward pass, no way.
But I don't know. He's kind of if you need cash to, a lot of people, are punting him for Hynes, or getting cash to upgrade, maybe front row or something. I can maybe see that because, if he's pumping out 60s, Jackson Ford's doing pretty much the exact same thing for 400k less, so 300 and something k less. So yeah, I can see some valid in it. I'm not getting rid of him. I'm happy just to leave him there. Hopefully he comes good. Hopefully the mass trade out of him comes back to bite everyone this week, and he scores a try and maybe some try assists. But it's more of a, if you need cash, he's kind of the fall guy. You're not really going to be trading out Harry Grant or any of the other guns around your side.
That's the thing.
Second row, there is all right, cheap mid options.
We got him in knowing he was a chance to play 80 minutes. For 2 or 3 weeks, he didn't play 80 minutes. And then on the weekend, like I was considering trading him out last week, but then their middles were very light last week. So I was like, okay, he's going to get 80 minutes. The role was still the same. And 58 points. I don't think it's good enough for the price tag, knowing that the second row is so stacked at the moment. We've got Jackson Ford on the horizon, who pretty much needs to be traded in this week or you miss out on him. We've got Zach Hosking coming up, who could potentially be one who everybody will want in their sides. I think if you are trading a Cameron Murray to an Elias Katoa, I think it is a bit late. I know Elias Katoa has done really well this year, but I think you're not getting enough cash from that trade, in my opinion. I think it's a bit sideways. I know Katoa's scoring way better than Murray is at the moment, but it's going to flip eventually.
Yeah, I think Murray's, like you're right there. I think Murray will outscore Katoa for the season. I think Ford's the one, and that Ford's, second most or third most trade in. So I think he's the one. If you need cash, that's where you go. The one who I really wish I went instead is Colin Matangi from South.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts on the edge, gets potentially a bit of attacking stats, and then moves in the middle later when they bring on one of their edge forwards, and he's outbasing Cameron Murray, and he's killing it playing 80. But as for Cam Murray,
he actually started in the middle on the weekend.
Okay.
So he was named at front row in that last kind of in the last minute before the lockout happened. And I like that he's moving into the middle. He played 80 minutes as it was, but it kind of boosts up his base just that little bit. He was always that kind of player who had pretty good base, but there were some times where his base will be a little bit down. At least we know we've got that security that he's got that 15, 20 minutes in the middle where he can rack up 15 points, 10, 15 points, and we can fall back on that with his attacking upside. So, yeah, I really like the Colin Matangi shout. I actually posted something about that yesterday on Instagram. I think he's an Origin Smoky at the moment. I actually don't think he's even a Smoky. I think with Angus Crichton out, they're definitely looking where to go. I don't think
either him or Ola Kawadu, I think one or even both of them, I think will definitely be in the Origin Blues side.
In your opinion, what does their back row and bench look like?
The Blues.
Yeah.
I think they keep Liam Martin, although he's not in this week as well, but he'll be right by Origin. And then they used to play Cameron Murray on the edge, which I think he's better suited in the middle. So I think bringing on like a Colin Matangi or an Ola Kawadu, like a damaging big second row, I think is going to be golden for them. So I think hopefully that's where Freddie goes, but Freddie's a bit of a lunatic. Probably puts Gerbo there.
Yeah, I reckon starting with Colin Matangi on the right, if Liam Martin moves to the left with the emergence of Hosking, I think that could pretty much solidify that back row. And Cameron Murray coming off the bench at number 15 like he did for the Australian side, I think that's the way to go, to be honest. We've talked about Hynes. Josh Schuster was potentially the cheapie of the week leading into this week, but Jackson Ford has taken over. I think both of these guys are pretty good trade-ins, but if you had to rank them, where would you rank them and why?
I mean, it depends what you're going to do with that extra 100K, I guess, with Ford. I don't know. I think Schuster, he nets you an extra 100K, and they both, I think, will kind of make the same money over long term. Ford's got a break even of 22, so I mean, because that 4 doesn't roll out till next week, his price is kind of not as going to spike as high as what it will. But so I don't know. I still think Schuster. I know it doesn't look too good with such the low base, but they're versus Newcastle this week, and I think he's going to get some attacking stats. So the fact that he can also be dual with 5'8" and second row and allows you to kind of flick around your team throughout the next couple of weeks, I think is more of a benefit than Jackson Ford. But if you want to play, say you're going Murray to one of these, I'd probably going Ford because I'd rather get Ford's guaranteed 50 points than potential 20 to 60 from Schuster.
It also depends what your plans are coming up. I actually went early on Schuster last week just because I was selling Dewey and I wanted a premium point scorer. I got in Damien Cook, which is a random purchase. But
I did think that was quite random for you, but I mean, you've locked your hookers in now for the season.
yeah, exactly. But now Brendan Hands, if he jags more minutes, like I could miss out on him, which is going to suck. But at the same time, I don't know if hooker cheapies are going to come easy this year, and playing off the bench, I don't know about it. So yeah, I was pretty keen just to lock in my hookers for the year. Obviously, the next step will be to lock in the halves with Cleary and Hynes. But this week, I have locked in my fullbacks. Obviously, maybe not for the rest of the year, but I'll speak about that at the end. Where were we, Schuster? I think it really depends on your plan with your side. So I went early on Schuster last week, which allows me to go forward this week. But looking at his break even of 22, I am selling Murray. I wanted to do trades later in the show, but I am selling Murray. And I think I'm going to get in Zach Hosking this week. I just like him much more as a play. Yeah, I am taking a risk because Garner and Liam Martin are nowhere to be seen on that bench. So obviously that doesn't bode well for Zach Hosking. I think he has won his spot though, but if he goes out and has a shocker, it could go up in flames. If that's the case, you can sell him to Jackson Ford next week. But I think it's really team dependent just on where you want to go. Obviously, my plan is to get Hosking this week, get Ford next week as a downgrade option from someone else. And I think that works best for my side. It allows me to just get points now.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to grab points now, and you're also getting a bit of cash by, I guess, getting rid of Murray to Ford, pretty much at the same, probably the same points. Hopefully not, but maybe. But I think with Hosking, just on that one, I think I wish Liam Martin was actually in this, like playing this week, because then I'd know, say Liam Martin is the one that plays 80, Hosking goes like the Garner role where he's playing 50 minutes, and then your mate Week Gutted Dog's coming on and playing the next 30 for him on the edge, sort of like Garner was. They've said in a little write-up that Garner's carrying a few niggling injuries. I think Hosking kind of beat him to his spot anyway.
But it's weird because Sorensen is named on the left side, Hosking is named on the right. So, in my opinion, the other week, Liam Martin was shifted to the left when Jamin Salmon came onto the field. And I think that's an indication of where they might go. They might start with Liam on the left and a Hosking on the right. So, yeah, it's kind of all up in the air, and it is a risk getting in Hosking, but honestly, he looks the goods. 70, I think it was about 74 points in base, 54 tackles, 0 missed, and he had like 26 points in hit up. So I really like that. I love that base. It's great for a second row forward who has attacking upside. But back to Schuster versus Ford. Now thinking about it, if you have to play one of them, Ford plays the Sharks this week, and I think playing the Sharks, not much is going to get through them at PointsBet. They're quite tough to play in PointsBet, whereas Schuster plays the Knights at 3 o'clock over in, I think it's Glen Willow Oval. I'm not sure where that is, but it is quite a dry track, and it favours the backs there, if it is dry there.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the conundrum you're throwing up, upside versus like a consistency. Like Jackson Ford, he got no attacking stats. He had one line break, I think, so he got about 50, just over 50 in base on the weekend, which you can kind of lock him into getting this week against the Sharks regardless. But Schuster could put him on 3 tries and end up on 80 this week. But so it's like, do you want to risk it or what?
Tim Moody is joining in on the show, and he just confirmed the Glen Willow Oval is in Mudgee. So he's hopefully very dry there this week. Moving on, Payne Haas. He is one of the most traded in players this week once again. Do you have him in your side, Jake?
No, I couldn't afford him last week. I wish I kind of did. I think I was about 30, 40K short. It's an annoying one. Like, he's eventually going to be a player that you want at the end. His second stint, he's absolutely killing it. Like, the first stint he's playing, first 40, 45 minutes. And then coming back on and just releasing the offload. He's, like, turning into an absolute machine. So, He's one I'll be looking at as getting as soon as possible, but at the moment I'm not really dealing with my front row. Just kind of I'm actually only making one trade this week, which is kind of bizarre.
One trade, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm boosting. So
I boosted last week, so
yeah. Oh, yeah, fair. So yeah, Payne Haas. I think in the front row forward, it's still that kind of upside area where there's not much there in upside terms.
I think there's like the three big guns. I think Tino, he showed again how good he is. He got 70 something. And Tarpanay, although he's playing 50 minutes, he's still bringing out 65, 70. So if he can get some sort of uptick in minutes, then he'll be, back to the top dog. I guess Tohu as well. There was a bit of an injury out, but he's been named, so he should be fine, I'm guessing.
Jonah Pezzett, 200K with a massive negative break even. If you're watching the quiz before the start of the show on the YouTubes, you would say he has the highest negative break even this week. Actually, he wasn't the answer because he's half back, but minus 82 break even with Jerome Hughes set to come back next week. Do you think people are just banking that he's going to score well this week, be a player for them, and then potentially punch him next week for a 100K profit? Or do you think these people are kind of banking on the fact that potentially Munster goes to fullback and Meaney goes to the wing? I think with the emergence of Will Warbrick having a blinder on the weekend, that's looking less and less likely.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to throw Munster at fullback. It didn't work for him last year. And Bellamy said there's no way we're moving Munster. So I think Munster's going to stay in the halves. I don't know. I think Pezzett's going to go to playing like a bench spot, being the 14 utility instead of Wishart, which I guess kind of guarantees him maybe a big price rise this week and maybe another one next week. But he's not going to get many points next week if he's coming off the bench. So the fact he's at halfback as well only. If he was 5'8", I can kind of understand the punt. You should kind of go him now and then move him on to someone else that's cheaper. But halfback's a bit funny because there's just say he only makes 150K. You got 350K. You somehow have to move to someone, which is going to be quite difficult to do. So, yeah, I think people just see the big break even and lock him in, and I don't think he's really going to be a pickup.
And like, who are you trading him for? So I'm looking at his stats right now. Traded in for Braden Trindle, 444 people. I mean, I get it. You're banking 100K, but at the same time, you're just wasting a lot of trades for a quick 100K. It's kind of a good tactic if you think of it. But
I mean, if your team's pretty settled, and you got, you're maybe lacking a bit of money generation, then I guess it's fine to spend, 2 trades on a quick 120K.
Yeah, and if that allows you to say you're not planning on getting Hynes this week, you're planning on getting him the week after the bye, and you're getting in Jonah Pezzett, quick 100K, but you've traded down, say, a Dewey to Jonah Pezzett by Isaiah Katoa or something. You've banked that 500K, and then you get an extra 100K from him, which allows you to go up to Hynes quite easier. So I think that's a pretty good tactic, and Pezzett to play next week. What's to say that something doesn't happen, that he potentially gets on the field again next week? I think I understand it, but I wouldn't be banking on it. It's a risk, but I wouldn't be banking on it. Potential cheapie of the week, Isaac Fasualamar.
Tino's brother.
Tino's brother. I say that every time. Isaac?
Yeah.
Fa'asuamalawi.
It's same as Tino.
Yeah, I can't say it. I can't say it. I'm usually quite decent with names like Mikey with Mole and bloody Hayes Perham. What other one does he do pretty bad?
He does Murdoch Masilla the other way. Masilla Murdoch.
Masilla Murdoch. Just kind of like Timmy when he says CTW. It's always CWT.
Got a couple of dyslexics in here.
But yeah, Tino's brother, 200K, got 45 on the weekend. But
that was with a lot of injuries, I guess.
Yeah, that was with 2 injuries. That was my point. He, I don't get me wrong. I get it, because if you've got like a Masilla Murdoch or a Franklin Pele sitting on your bench,
and a Mole as well,
or a Mole, you want to look for someone to kind of move on to, but I don't think Tino's brother is the guy to do so.
No, I think, I mean, he doesn't play this week, so you can kind of leave that till next week. It's not like you're going to make a massive amount of money going one of them guys we mentioned to him. Like they're 250K, getting 50K out of that move. So I think, just maybe wait till next week, see if he's named, and see kind of the bench and what it looks like before going in on Tino's brother.
On Tino's brother. Last one, before we move on to key team changes, we've got Reece Walsh. He is on the top traded in this week at 650K. He's made a cool 100K. And firstly, try assist. How did he get it?
I don't know. He took off fast and passed the ball. Apparently that means it's a try assist.
All right. I'm not salty over it. I'm just very salty over it. But
I'm not salty. I'm just very salty.
It's fine. He plays the West Tigers this week. So is it warranted that he's still a trading target? Yeah,
I mean, unless you've kind of got, say, Turbo and you've kept Teddy, or maybe even Latrell Mitchell, who had an off week last week, I think I mean, he looks so good. They've got a pretty easy draw from the next three. I think they got Tigers, Raiders, maybe Titans or something like that. So, and he's a low break even, like 18. So he's going to go towards like maybe 750, 100K the way he's going, and he's involved in all their attack. And you got to think the Broncos are first. It's going to continue. Hopefully, it doesn't continue like 2 weeks ago when he scored 90 points in the last 8 minutes.
Yeah,
owners would have been shitting themselves that week, but yeah, I still think he's a trade in for sure. I think there was one question asking, is it too late to buy Reece Walsh? I don't think so.
I don't think so, because there's still a good draw, and he's a very short. Like, he's still got 3 weeks in him, in my opinion, as a good play. And then I think moving on to a Teddy or Latrell in 3 weeks kind of lines up nicely with them. But it also depends who you're selling for him, because if you are selling a Teddy or a Latrell,
yeah, you should have done that last week.
It's not too late, because he's still got a low break even, and Teddy and Latrell still have high break even. So
yeah,
it's probably not too late, but I'd be more hesitant than I would have been last week when Teddy had the bye and Latrell kind of still had a harder matchup. As each week goes on, Latrell and Teddy's matchups are quite hard, but that means that we're one step closer to the easy matchup. Guys, we had a big weekend on Picklebet. We had a few people message us asking, what is the code? It is Turbo. Turbo is the affiliate code when signing up to Picklebet. And I've had a few people message saying that the app is really friendly and they love using it. Yes, it is Australian owned, and you're supporting Australian bookmaker who their number one priority is making content. And we have a big announcement regarding that in a couple of weeks. It's going to completely restructure how our show is produced, and I think a lot of people will kind of guess what it already is, but it is big for us. It's a big step for us and moving in the right direction. And I think Picklebet is the place to go if you want to support. If you are gambling anyway, sign up with Picklebet. Use the code TURBO with the affiliate sign up, and you will hit wonders. You'll reach the moon. And obviously signing up through that code, that helps us. But don't bet more than you can afford, because we all know what a gambling hangover is. And I'll tell you what, it's probably worse than an actual hangover.
And Saz has had plenty of those actual hangovers from his 2 ciders he drinks on a Saturday night. But I guess on Picklebet, I've had a bit of a dibble in Picklebet. They have a few like pick-em competitions as well, which are free to enter, which I thought was pretty cool. There's like NRL ones, basketball, and all that sort of stuff, and I guess free to bet. You can win cash prizes, so I thought that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I wish we kind of discussed this before you said that, because I'm actually not allowed to say that. But
sorry, sorry,
it's fine. You can go in there and pretty much find that for yourself, because there is a lot of benefits of doing the pick'em. But the pick'em is just like, you don't need to be a gambler. You just pick. And if you pick more like outlandish picks, like on the weekend, I picked the Knights to beat the Raiders, you get more points. And the more points you get, the higher on the ladder you go. And you can go within the app and check how you went on the leaderboard. Last week, I think I came 36th, which was pretty cool. And like, that's just because I tipped like random picks. Like I picked Newcastle, I picked the Warriors against the Dogs.
Your former team, the Knights. Newcastle.
That's it. I picked Manly against the Rabbitohs, which got down, and I also picked the Titans against the Cowboys, which I think was looking good for a little bit. But I guess moving on to the key team changes, the Roosters are off the bye, and we've got all hands on deck here. Brandon Smith, he's still battling that rib injury. I think it's going to be a bit awkward for him, but you think he's going to be an option in a few weeks, potentially, even leading into buys, potentially?
I don't know, maybe in the buys. He just hasn't looked good. I know maybe, he fixed his rib injuries and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know, I don't see as much of a role. I mean, if he was kind of playing a bit of lock, which he kind of maybe might do at the end of games, but I don't think so. I saw enough from him in the first 3 weeks to be like, I don't want anything to do with this guy. I don't think he's going to be really SuperCoach relevant this year. I know a lot of people still holding him and hoping. But one big out from this game, he said not many, all hands on decks. Joseph Manu's out. He's suspended for, is it 1 or 2 games? So
yeah,
that's going to hurt their attack a bit, because I think Drew Hutchison ain't quite the same player as
Drew Hutchison, he's a bit of a Derek, but he has a go. He's
the new Mitchell Orbison.
I don't know if he's quite there. I think he's more of a non-grubby version of Tyson Gamble. Like, he tries really hard, but like, just Tyson Gamble's a great player. I love Tyson Gamble. Yeah. So moving on, other key team changes. We got in the Raiders Penrith game. Zach Hosking, we obviously talked about it earlier. He's got the starting spot. Luke Garner has had some niggles, and Liam Martin is still battling that injury. Scott Sorensen does start on the edge, which that's another one in there. If he kills it, he could potentially have a spot there. But I think Hosking's won his spot. Tyrone Peachy, one of the favourites of the Penrith, he jags a spot on the bench. He might spend some time in hooker because Sonny Luke is out.
Sonny Luke out with HIA. So
a lot of people did get in Sonny Luke. I think with Sonny Luke, we've got to see the minutes before he's an option. And yeah, he might get to 300, 350K, but I think it's what we got to do.
And I guess you kind of skipped over, but that Braden Hands, he kept his spot. So I guess if you've got Sonny Luke, he could be an option next week.
That's it.
Bank a bit of cash.
Scored 57
really last week.
Scored 57 on the weekend. He looked very good. He kind of suits Parramatta's attack a bit more than Josh Hodgson. I think Josh Hodgson, I honestly thought he'd come into the side and give early ball, stop fucking around the rock, but he's just up to his usual bold-headed fuck self.
Hey, hang on. You can't bug us out. Poor ball bloke.
I was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh.
Mate, have you seen 2 of them for the Warriors, Walker and Tavanga? They come on, it's just like the bowlies. I'm like, go!
They're actual skinheads, eh?
Yeah.
We've spoken about Pezzett for the Rabbitohs and Melbourne game. There's not much looking there, but Munster is back. I think with players like Brimson, if you don't have Brimson, Dewey's a popular sell. I think Munster, he's looking good. He looks like he's the center of that attack. Harry Grant kind of looked like when he come back that Harry Grant was just dishing the ball.
No, I think it was just an off game. I think the Tigers, they defended all right in the middle, and they have for the first couple of games. It's on the edges that they've been terrible. So I think that's kind of more of a game plan from Melbourne to hit the edges. I think against South, they're going to be playing through the middle. They're kind of, apart from Murray, their 4-pack's a bit So I think Harry Grant will be back to what he was used to. But I think, I guess if you're getting rid of Dewey, Munt's obviously the top dog. Dylan Brown, Paris, hard draw finally finishes next week. I think they're running to the Tigers and a couple of other easy
next week,
games.
yeah.
So I think Munt's from Dylan Brown is, and the thing with Dylan Brown as well, he will play the round 13 bye. Don't have to worry about Origin or anything because he's a Kiwi. So there's a bit of a plus on him as well.
Brad Huxley, can that bald-headed fuck Hodgson retire so we can have hands as a cheapie?
It would be all right, but it would be golden.
No, it wouldn't.
I still have Tana Boyd. It'll be perfect.
It wouldn't be. I just locked in my hookers. We've got Gregosaurus Rex named on the wing. He looks like a good Supercoach option. What are your thoughts on him? So he played on the right side.
Yeah, with Gagai.
And Ruben Garrick is running at that right side this weekend.
It's good for Garrick. He's not the greatest of defenders, Marju. He's terrible.
No, yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, what are your thoughts on both of them? Marju, 22 points in tackle busts on the weekend. Garrick, 3 line breaks. It's looking like with Schuster in the side, that left side is as dominant as ever. What are your thoughts on these two blokes?
Marju, I don't know. You got to see a bit more from him. I don't know if he keeps his spot. I don't know if Dom Young comes back. I mean, Dom Young's not going to be there next year, so maybe they keep Marju. But he's one game away or one stinker away from being dropped, I think, Marju. And he does have a few defensive errors in him, so there's a good chance he could do that. But in terms of Garrick, yeah, he's, absolute gun. I think he's going to be I said Val Holmes was going to be a top scorer. I think it's going to be Garrick again this year. I think he's going to be top scoring centre wing. So I guess when you can get him in. Has a good matchup this week. Then they have a few. Is it tough? I'm not sure who Manly play. I think there's a few tough games in there.
Yeah, they play like
But I don't think it really matters because all their attacks going to go pretty much down that edge.
I think the competition is so close this year that a lot of sides are going to have tougher matchups, but I think the points are there. Yeah. I don't know if these high ceiling games are going to happen as often as they have in the past.
Unless you have some Dragons and Tigers.
Yeah, obviously later in the season we're going to see a bit more of that, but I think for now we're just kind of going to sit around that 80 to 110 is kind of a big score for a player, unless you're Nico Hynes, obviously. Other key team changes, we've got Isaiah Katola's back. Jack Bostock is named on the wing. Tessie New is injured, so let's just read the report here. Tessie New knee is replaced on the wing by Jack Bostock, who makes his NRL debut. That's all it says. So
yeah, I don't think it's long term because he still played the whole game, Tessie New. So I don't think it's that bad. I think it's going to be a week or two. So obviously, if Bostock's about to play his third game, he's being named. That would probably downgrade one of our other cheapies, like a war brick, to him and bank the cash. But at this stage, I wouldn't be bringing him in at all. Now.
Just back to the Newcastle game, Lockie Miller named at fullback. He's absolutely killing it right now. He actually gained the goal kicking on the weekend with Jackson Hastings still on the field, but he did miss 2 goals. They weren't the easiest, but they weren't the hardest. What are your thoughts on Lockie Miller?
If I could afford it, I would have brought him in. I'm 10K short of being Lockie Miller. I like what I saw from him, the fact that he got the goal kicking fullback, and he just he has so many runs, so many tackle busts, and just gets his hands on the ball all the time. I guess his base is 50. If you get that out of a centre wing he scored over 100 on the weekend just with 2 try assists. So, yeah, I think he's going to be potentially a end of season centre winger.
At this rate, who are the top 4 that you will be targeting at this point of the season? Obviously, we're still playing cheapies in our side and things like that, but prior to round 13, you would think that a lot of our sides are going to be kind of probably stacked up a bit more than right now. Who are your pre-round 13 targets?
Well, I guess before round 13, you're kind of going to maybe target some fallen gun players that might be a straight swap for your War Bricks, your Calm Pereiras, a straight swap, 450K, 500K to them, and then they, have a good run. They go back up. I haven't really looked at 2 ones that are falling in price. There's a few Sharks that were, but after they destroyed the Dragons, they're kind of on the way
They
back
made
up
money again.
they made money again, so you kind of going to pass on them. And you kind of maybe look at players that are actually going to play round 13 as well. So I guess high upside players. I know we can only have 13 plays for that round. We haven't really, hasn't been much talk about, planning for that. But I guess end of season, you're going to have Garrick, probably Val Holmes. One question I have for you is, can Kiraz continue his form, and is he going to be an end of season centre winger?
I think so. With the centre wings, it's a bit difficult because it is a long season, and the Brian To'os of the world are the ones who can keep it up for a full season just because the side was so good and he was able to, in that 2021 season, he was able to keep it up with the tries. So who knows, there might have been games where he would have got subpar scores, but because their side is so good, more line breaks came, more tries came, and just more attacking stats in general. I think with the Bulldogs, it's going to be very draw dependent, because I think as the season goes on and Kiraz gets a bit more bashed up, the base stats aren't going to be as prominent and not as often. I think he's still got good base in him, but we saw last year when he came onto the scene, this is a great centre wing base scorer, and it did fall off towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think last year he really wasn't expecting to play NRL. He was outside the top 30, and it was just a sequence of events that kind of led him to his first grade debut. He's kind of more ready for it this year, so I think it will last longer this year, and I think you just ride with it for now. And there's obviously going to be a point where it gets to where he could potentially be scoring a bit lower than we would have liked him to. And there will be a question, do we sell? Is he just having a few off weeks? I think when it gets to that point, it will be getting to him. And keeping up that work rate is so hard for a whole season.
He had 27 runs on the weekend. Surely you can't be having that many runs. Someone else has got to do something in that side.
But I don't want to be negative. I think he's the kind of player who I see him keeping it up.
He's got tackle, bust, and offload, so
yeah,
there's that as well.
That's it. I've lost where I'm at on my key team changes. I just want to go back quickly. We are going to answer a couple of questions before the end, but this is one I do want to touch on. Nigel Green on YouTube. Is Nat Butcher a good trading option for Murray? Doesn't play Origin. I think he's at 5.6%, and his lowest score is 61. I think he got 61, 68, 74 without any attacking stats. I really like Nat Butcher.
I don't know. I think if you're going to kind of downgrade Murray, Nat Butcher's only going to really play, one bye round, which I think maybe will be later in the season. I'm pretty sure Roosters don't play round 13, so it's going to be the later one. I'd rather be targeting, say, Jackson Ford, that's going to be making money. He can make 200, 300K and be a straight swap for Nat Butcher for that buy during that time. So, don't get me wrong, Nat Butcher's he'll pump out good scores. He'll pump out 55 plus every week, and Roosters, you assume their attack starts to gel, and you'll get some more attacking stats. But I don't know. I like Nat Butcher as a option, but I don't think now. I think now is kind of where you go, your Jackson Ford or even Eli Katoa, who's going to be making a bit more money and cheaper.
And thinking of it, the second row is so stacked. Do you really want it taken up with someone like Nat Butcher? I think he's a great pod, but there's so much value there at the moment. I think you've got to take it while it's there, because obviously in a couple of weeks, it's going to dry up and we're not going to have the cheapie. So we need to keep our cash generation flowing, and there's the age-old question, points first, cash flow. I think there's got to be a good balance of both. And with players like Jackson Ford and Zach Hosking at the moment, they're kind of doing both. So I think that's why they're so appealing. John Bateman, top scored last week. He's named again. His price changes this week because he had a few weeks off. 622K. Tempted?
They need to play him in the lock more often. As soon as he went to the lock, he pumped off 3 players and threw a cutout pass for a try. But the Tigers look terrible at the moment. I think he's going to probably lose a bit of cash. I think his round one, he got like 40 or something. So he's going to lose a bit. I'd wait. He got a bit of a knock. I think they were sending for scans on his ankle, so maybe that's come back all right. So he's carrying a bit of a knock, but I don't know. Not at the moment. I think, like you sort of said, I think there's all right options at the moment that you can go instead of a 600K player playing for the Tigers.
And I've also got to reiterate, once again, that second row position is so stacked. I can't believe out of everyone I could have said from that matchup, I go with the one that I've just said for the whole episode. It's so stacked.
Well, actually, one player, Stefano, is it time to move him out this week or on the next couple of weeks? It looks like he might have hit his cap.
He's got to buy him round 7. He's at about where he belongs in price. I think he's a trade-out target before.
Do you have him as your second front rower?
I do.
A lot of people have that. So what's your plan before the round 7?
I got to be honest, I don't have a plan. My plan would just be in round 7, trade him out as the week comes. I think a lot of people there's a lot of different super coaches out there, and a lot of people I kind of listen to have like long-term plans for their trades. And like when I first used to hear people say that, it used to scare me because I'm like, am I never going to be able to win SuperCoach because I just don't plan like that? I think you can't be like, I think there's a good middle ground. You've kind of got to loose that, and that's what I do. I kind of just say in my head, I don't write it down or anything, but in my head, I know who I want in the next couple of weeks. I know which matchups I definitely want these players for. And I think if you're set on like a 6 or 7 week plan, if something happens if something happens and like a player absolutely goes off that was not on your radar, I think it kind of jades your vision and kind of you might not consider them as much as you would if you didn't have a plan. So I guess, but in the same token, I think if these players go off, a lot of people look at these players and think, oh, I've got to get them in now because they've scored well. Like there's this guy I'm helping out in SuperCoach. I think you actually know him. He's in like a comp with Josh Camplin, and he's asking me for advice every week. And he always asks me trade advice every week, and he's been doing very well. He's like won every single matchup that he's had coming into this year, and he's ranked quite well. And he always asks me every week, oh, I want to trade in this person. And it's always the highest scoring player of the week before. And I'm always like, nah, just hold off, man. Like there's going to be a player that you have that's going to score big again this week. Like it never just goes, this player is going to score 180 every single week for the next 3 weeks now. You don't need to get them in now. But people just kind of have that mindset that they don't want to miss out on that big score, because I think this year, more than most others, that these scores are harder to come by, and we still want to chase them, because the people that had Hynes this week, and especially the people that captained Hynes, like the jump they saw, it was such a good opportunity to go up in the ranks. And this year it's been so hard to make a difference in the ranks that I think people are losing their heads just a little bit. I think you've kind of got to stick to it. That was a bit of a rant, wasn't it?
No, man, it was good insight, I guess, to how you kind of reacting to trades, or how people might be reacting to trades that, okay, yeah, fair enough. There's some big scoring players. Probably not the best thing to follow them unless they've got a bit of pedigree about them. I think it was the kind of thing you might have not put in there. Like someone like, I don't know who scored massive. Viliami Valea from the Warriors scored a ton this week. I kind of wouldn't be rushing to bring him in. But other players, yeah, I can see that you kind of need a player or a big move to kind of get your head. And if a player can go big, then they can go big, so you can bring them in.
Yeah, and if you're kind of copying the high-scoring player from last week, it's not going to happen every week. You've got to get the next person who's going to be the most traded in the week after. So I think when someone scores that much, my brain goes the other way and thinks, okay, I missed out on that. Who can I get? So I'm the one before the influx of people by the next set of people. And I think that will reflect in my trades this week. Nico Hynes is the most traded in this week. I think this is more... Yes, this has got to do with the 180, but I think this is more reasonable than the ones we've seen in the past few weeks because Nico Hynes is going to be in everyone's side in 2 or 3 weeks anyway. So you get him in, you can get him in now, you may as well do it. But this stems into trades. Let's talk trades, Jake. You say you're only doing one. What is it?
Yeah, boring ones are Trent Liero to Josh Schuster. Boring as a...
That's so boring.
Yep. That's why I'll go first, and I know yours are quite interesting, so we can go straight to you.
That is so boring. Oh, I'm so bored, Jake.
Hey, it went Hynes last week. Last week was the big moves. This week is a bit of consolidation, and then I've got trades and stuff to make in the... I know you said don't plan too much in advance, but it's the next 2 weeks.
Obviously in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I know where I want to be. So it's kind of similar to you. It's the same. It's the same pretty much. So last week was your moving week. You stay put this week. You don't need to do anything crazy. It's a good week to save trades for people who do have Hynes. So I like it. I don't have Hynes. I'm not getting him in, and I'm boosting. So this week, I'm going Cameron Murray to Zach Hosking. That could easily turn into Jackson Ford because Jackson Ford could potentially set up my side a bit more long-term and a bit more in the short-term future.
Less risk as well, I think.
Yes. I've sold AJ Brimson to Cameron Munster. AJ Brimson went off with a hammy on the weekend and lost about 80K. It's so devastating when a very low ownership goes down for 12. It hurts so much. And I was having a good week too, so it hurt even that much more. Going into Munster, I did want to go to Brown, but I think Munster is...
the top 5-8.
Yeah, I think he's the top 5-8. And I don't want to just choose a player because they're playing the buys. I think I'm thinking who's going to score more in the short term now, even though their draw does toughen up a bit. But I think he kind of likes the challenge of a bit of a tougher draw. And I'm also selling Nick Meaney. He's done me well. I don't know what your thoughts on him are, but their draw does toughen up with the Rabbitohs, Manly, and I think Penrith. They've got the Roosters. They've got a pretty tough 3 rounds, and I think he's the type of player who will still score 40, maybe 45, 50, but I don't think he's going to have that kind of 70-plus game in him more often than not. So he's out. Tedesco's in for me. He's now under 20% owned. He does this every year, and I've been quite open with it. Get in the player who you think is going to score the next big amount, and I think against Parramatta, he historically scores very well against Parramatta, and I'm locking that in this week. Break even of 114, which will scare people off, but averages 80 against Parramatta. His draw he's got Melbourne, and then he's got the Sharks, which is pretty shit, but then he's got St. George, New Zealand, Cowboys, Penrith, then St. George again. So it's a pretty good draw after that, but he scored 144 against Sharks last year. So I think in one of them tougher games, I'm hoping that he does bust out something similar, even if it's just a ton. I think Teddy as a pod, it was always my plan, and I like it.
You did say it last week or even the week before that you're getting Teddy after they had their bye. And I guess it is really a power move because everyone's got Turbo and everyone pretty much has Reece Walsh as well. So yeah, it's a power move, Savs, and could pay off. I mean, we haven't seen the best of Teddy, so kind of tells me that he's due. Not having Manu there, I think, will benefit him. You've got a little visitor. So yeah, I don't mind it, Savs. You got to make these big moves to build ranks, and this one could be it.
That's it. I think I was tossing up between Latrell. Latrell's a bit more expensive, and I think I like what I've seen from Teddy early in the season. I think he's been very close to a big score, and that's different from the past. Like, I know I started without him because he starts slow, but he's been thereabouts. He's been so close every game. So I think that's the reason I'm confident to go with Teddy, because I think maybe that bye and maybe the para matchup. It's all kind of aligning for Teddy to bounce back in this mid before the bye period. Special. We probably don't have time to answer some questions. We'll answer two. So we'll answer two good ones. Jake, you can choose one and I'll choose one.
I like this one.
Yep. Thoughts on trading Isaac Thompson to Jackson Paulo this week for the price rise next week and then Paulo to Garrick? I don't hate the plan.
Jackson Paulo's got a negative 30 or something break even. He's looked pretty good. They keep attacking that edge. Isaac Thompson looks like poo. So I think he's definitely a trade out. I guess if that's an easy cash way to get to Garrick, there's not really any low center wing I guess bridges that kind of allow you to get that. So I mean, it could be a couple good weeks for Jackson Paulo. If Savs is right and Teddy's going to have an absolute blinder on the weekend, surely there's a try assist for Jackson Paulo. Do you agree?
Do you agree? Dada? What is that? Sorry, my daughter's just come in and I've been gone for an hour, so I need to look after her eventually. Where else am I going to go? So we've got... Actually, I really like this one. Jake Howarth, he's our resident Canberra Raiders expert. He's got very good insight on Hudson Young, usually. He's good mates with Hudson Young. So, Jake, do you think Tomoko is flying under the radar? Check the stats.
No, the last couple of weeks, he's been killing. I brought him in our draft, actually, because I needed a center winger, and he's been going well. I think you were very keen on him like a year or two ago. Gets through a lot of work, tackle busters in there. You kind of look at Canberra and you say none of their backs are very enticing. They don't offer anything. But Tomoko, he's looked all right. He's at 530K, so he's not exactly like a cheap 400 to 500K player that you kind of would bring in to make money. He's kind of locked in how he is, but he's scoring well. I think it might have been 90 the last week. 90 against Cronulla 2 weeks ago, and then a 70 or something in a team that looked terrible on the weekend without, I think, attacking stats. So Jake Howarth is onto one there. He's looked very, very good.
He has looked good. Scores of 29, 55, 95, and 69. Nice. He's already made 90K, though, so I think he's kind of a mid-ranger that is kind of past. But I do like him, and I just don't know. I just don't like these players who don't have huge upside or don't have 100-plus games in them. I think 95 is about ceiling. That brings us to bold predictions and captain choices.
By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. Captain Planet, he's our hero. Gonna take...
All right, let's start with our bold predict. Actually, no, let's go captain options. I'll start off. My VC is Nathan Cleary against the Canberra Raiders. Pretty vanilla this week. I do like Teddy against Parramatta on the Thursday night, but we'll see how the rain goes. If it's raining too much, I'll be a bit hesitant on that one. But Trbojevic at 3 o'clock at Glen Willow. He's the captain. Jake, I imagine you're probably similar, but maybe Trbojevic VC, a certain long head. Have you seen Outer Banks?
Yes, I have.
Do you reckon the main character looks like Nico Hynes?
Yeah, dark skin, long hair.
John B. I'm watching it lately, and I'm like,
I finished it, so I won't spoil it for you.
Oh, do they die?
Anyway, but yes, my VCs, like you said, Turbo, Captain Hynes. I think the reverse obviously would be VC Cleary than Captain Turbo, but I would rather have the higher upside, I guess, on Turbo, like you said, at Glen Willow, which is in Mudgee.
And bold predictions. I'm going to go the big guns. The big guns are going to come through this week. Nico Hynes, I reckon he started a trend where he's put the competition on notice, and I think players like Cleary, Tedesco, Trbojevic, Nico, and Munster, I guess we could probably put that's probably it, to be honest. Maybe even Cherry Evans. All these players are going to be like, shit, Nico's here. They're all going to go 100 plus, and Nico included is going to go 100 plus as well. And I don't own him. I'm scared as fuck not owning him. But
So there's a very good chance your plans change on Thursday night, and he may be your plan.
They're not changing. I'm pretty happy with the makeup of my side, and I think my trade next week of Cartwright to Jackson Ford or Cartwright to Hosking is going to allow me to bank some cash to buy Nico in a few weeks.
I like it. As for mine, I'm going the two most trade out, Dewey and Cam Murray to bite the traders. I think they both combine for 200 plus. Those two. And I'm also going to say, I guess the big guys are going to go big as well. I think Val Holmes, he's due. I think he turns up as well.
Matt, well, see, the thing is with my bowl predictions, I've worded it very loosely. Val Holmes is a big gun, so
you could throw about 40 players in that category, Sav.
I probably could. But I've named the ones that I think there are. So Cherry Evans, Trebojevic, Tedesco, Cleary, Hynes, Munster. I said Cherry Evans, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, and Garrick. Garrick's going to go 100 plus as well on Marju's side, but Marju's still going to score well. And I like him as a buyer next week, so I guess we'll talk about him next week. But cheers for tuning in, guys. Great episode. Good to have you on, Jake. I actually was nearly at the Daily Telegraph today again, and I saw a lot of comments last week saying I dogged the show for it to go on the Teams podcast. No, I did not dog the show for it. I was actually in the city anyway and was going to miss out anyway. And since I was in the city, I rang up Tom Sangster and said, hey, do you need anyone? And yeah, just defending myself, you know. But we will be, shout out to Picklebet. Make sure to jump on their Pick'ems and use the affiliate code TURBO when signing up. Jake, enjoy your week, and I hope Nico Hynes does well for you. But I'll secretly be loving it if he just has an early shower 35 minutes in.
Yeah, exact same thing for Teddy as well, Sam. Exact same. Good luck to you.
Just before we go, Mitchell Webster, full of it. Savs, you dogged it.
Don't dog the boys.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.